healthcare disparities, is it possible to eliminate them? And if there are one or two things that we think we can do locally here that will make a major impact, and knowing that it's multifactorial, what would that be?
Well, first of all, yes, we can eliminate health disparities. I have a slide that I use when I sometimes give a talk that point out the following. The life expectancy today of African Americans is longer than that of white Americans in 1900. White Americans' life expectancy was 47 years in 1900. It's now 80 years. For African Americans, it's around 35 years. Now it's close to 70 years. So, in other words, everyone in our society has improved in terms of life expectancy, which is a proxy for other things too here. So yes, we are better because of advances in public health, improvements in nutrition, more wealth. Also, as you know, people with more education tend to be healthier because they know how to get information and how to respond to it, et cetera. So yes, we can eliminate health disparities or come very, very close. There are only a few things, because we're getting into this area now with personalized medicine. There are two things. There may be some genetically determined things, such as sickle cell anemia and Tay-Sachs disease and things like that. But by and large, if we can improve the health behavior of our citizens, we will have great impact. If there were one, the one thing that I would do, I tried to do already as secretary, that is to stop tobacco use. Tobacco use is the #1 preventable cause of death in our country. Almost 500,000 people die every year, about 480,000 from tobacco use. There's a report that you may have seen in the last day or so that people dying from secondhand smoke have been reduced, but we still have some 40,000 people who die from secondhand smoke. So a lot of what we confront today is really based on lifestyle. We become sedentary. There have been studies that have shown routine exercise, whether it's walking or swimming or calisthenics or what have you, will increase your life expectancy, will decrease your likelihood of developing a heart attack or stroke, etc. So becoming active, and we've become sedentary. That's also led to, contributed to obesity. That, of course, means diabetes has increased, etc. But if we could really stop tobacco use and have people exercise a little bit more regularly, those would have a major impact on our health.
There was a question over here first.
Yes, I wanted to ask, when you served as the Secretary of the Department of Health and Human Services, what was your greatest challenge?
What was my greatest challenge as Secretary? I think it was really all of the advocacy groups that I had to deal with. I mentioned the fact that I was told I was the most sued individual on earth, but I was also the individual that the advocacy groups actually came at. Not only the abortion people, whether they're pro-life or pro-choice, there's that. The animal rights groups, because the animal rights groups object to using animals for scientific research. And you can't convince them by saying, well, the vaccines were developed really because of a lot of animal research, a lot of other things are there. So dealing with groups like that. But also groups that we had a better relationship with, the disability groups. One of President Bush's early pieces of legislation that he was proud of was the American with Disabilities Act, which really mandated things like access to facilities and so forth. Well, they wanted more. And what they would do, I would be speaking, let's say, at some meeting in Chicago, Illinois. All these wheelchairs would come in. Of course, the ushers would bring them right down front so they really could see unimpeded. They'd be very quiet, very courteous. I talk about this in the book. But then, when I get up to speak, all of a sudden, all of them would put themselves out of their chairs and start crawling towards the stage, chanting in unison, "Why won't you meet with us?" Well, you know, you've had it there, because here you are in front of 5,000 people. You can't say, "Well, folks, really what this is all about," you know, et cetera. So that was because they wanted even more. And one of the things that they wanted was to have 1/3 of the Medicaid funds that was spent for nursing home care changed to home attendance. Great goal, but first of all, I didn't have the authority to do that. That would take congressional action, and my staff had told them that. But you know, it's easier to target one secretary than 435 members of Congress. So those are things, and they knew that. One thing that my Morehouse colleagues will enjoy, those of you who've been to Morehouse know you come off of I-20, the first building you come to is the Morehouse School of Medicine. Then beyond that is Morehouse College. Well, when I was in Washington, I got a call from Roy Keith, who was then president of Morehouse College, and he said, "Lou, could you speak to these people who are here in my office?" I said, "What are you talking about, Roy?" He said, "All these people in wheelchairs who are in my office, they're not going to leave until I get a meeting for them with you." So I knew exactly what had happened. I said, "Oh gosh, Roy, I'm sorry that that's happened, but I worked with these people." Well, he had to leave his office. They stayed overnight. And he told me the next day he had to come in, he had to have his office cleaned up, etc. Well, after that call from Roy Keith, I called over to Jim Goodman, who was then our president at the medical school. I said, "Jim, are you all right?" He said, "Sure. Why do you call?" I said, "Well, do you have any people that know?" I said, "Well, Roy Keith just called me. He has an office full of people in wheelchairs who won't leave." And so Jim Goodman said, "You know, I saw those people going by here in wheelchairs. I wondered what they were doing." Fortunately for him, they didn't know the difference between Morehouse College and Morehouse School of Medicine. So the college, unfortunately, got the brunt of that. So there were things like that where you try and communicate, but as you know, in so many instances, that doesn't happen because people already have their fixed minds and ideas. And what they want is a confrontation. They want to get a picture in the newspaper or on television, confronting the secretary or what have you. So those were the things. I would often go to a place and I'd go in by the kitchen rather than, because there'd be a line of people, picketers outside. So that was perhaps the most difficult thing, because I like to have discussions and dialogue with people, but if the objective of a person you're talking with is not to try and find common ground, but rather confrontation, that's frustrating.
I know Dr. Sullivan is here to sign books, so we'll take one more question. University Counsel Patton.
Thank you for coming. I just wanted to ask you to consider a little bit further a premise in a previous question about the relevancy of HBCUs. As a graduate of Howard University School of Law, we're finding kind of remarkable that African American fraternities are in dire straits all over the United States because the number of African American men matriculating at universities has decreased to such an extent that they can't populate that kind of social organization. Do you accept as a premise that there are so many options for African Americans until it's even worth considering that HBCUs might not have a purpose?
No. This is what you point out is a serious problem, but that really is a pipeline problem. The fact is, we have more black young men in prison than we have in college. But the fact is, we have them, but they are not where they should be. That's where we need to work, and that's where organizations that are working as mentors for young people to help give them a vision for the future and hope and help. That's what we need, because the other problem we confront around the country is that we as a country have not supported our K-12 educational system the way we should. Where teachers are pawns sometimes in battles in the legislature as to money for funds, et cetera. So no, I think rather than the idea that HBCUs are obsolete. They're needed now more than ever. But we need to work on that pipeline so that those young men and young women will come through. We see the same at Morehouse School of Medicine. 2/3 of our students are women. I don't know what it's like here at Drew, but I do at Howard. I know it's the same there. So we need to really utilize our institutions, but they need they can't work on what they don't get. They're just not getting the applicants there. But no, I say that what we have been able to accomplish at Morehouse is at Morehouse School of Medicine, because of Morehouse College. Medical schools are usually started by universities, not by colleges. Morehouse School of Medicine was started by a college. Oftentimes I will see Morehouse University somewhere, because people assume that because there's a Morehouse College and a Morehouse School of Medicine, this has to be part of a Morehouse University. When I was at Boston, and I talk about this in the book too, Boston University School of Medicine, when I was a student there in the mid-50s, really had a strained relationship with the main Boston University campus. Dean Faulkner actually went to MIT, Mount Sinai Hospital, and Princeton University to talk with them about the possibility if they withdrew from the university, would they develop an affiliation? And all three of them said, thanks very much, but you know, if we had wanted a medical school, we would have started one. MIT now, of course, is affiliated with Harvard. Princeton still hasn't started a medical school. They point out that, you know, if we really wanted to do this, but they were not interested. So Morehouse College starting a medical school meant that they were taking on a major challenge. Hugh Gloucester risked his career, because had this gone bad, of course, Morehouse alumni around the country would have been very unhappy. But fortunately, this was a good outcome. But one of the reasons we became independent from the college was that the trustees of the college said, well, they supported Gloucester, but saying, well, you need to work to have this separate as soon as possible, so that it doesn't pose a financial risk to the college. And that happened in 1981.
Okay. Let's give Dr. Sullivan a round of applause.